What if I told you that the day the Watchers fell from heaven, the earth itself was altered forever? That just beyond the mountains and the forgotten mists of time, a cosmic war unfolded not just in the clouds, but in the marrow of reality itself, changing not only human destiny, but the very laws that govern the unseen realm. Imagine that every ancient legend of giants, forbidden secrets, and monstrous beings in the shadows all began in one moment, a single choice made by those who were never meant to walk among us. But what if I told you that the Watchers were not the only ones watching? That, as Semyaza and his fallen brethren plotted their descent, two of heaven's most enigmatic archangels, Raphael, the healer of nations, and Raguel, the very embodiment of justice, were already moving into place, not with the blinding terror of battle, but with the cold resolve of a sentence being written before the crime was committed. Picture Raphael, the guardian whose very presence radiated a gentle, unbreakable authority, and Raguel, the storm-wreathed commander whose gaze could pierce the secrets of both angels and men. Tonight, I invite you to step into a version of the Watcher's story that you've never heard before. Not the story told by trembling mortals, nor the whispered rumors scribbled in forgotten scrolls. This is the account of what happened in the halls of the unseen, the hidden theater where destinies are forged and the end of innocence began. You'll see the Watchers not as distant, impersonal rebels, a cautionary tale, but as beings who tore a wound into creation itself. And standing at the edge of that wound, you'll witness the two guardians, Raphael and Raguel, standing between chaos and cosmos. The day the Watchers fell, the skies weren't the only thing reacting. Even before the first foot touched earth, the air grew thick, heavy with anticipation as if all creation held its breath. The question wasn't just who would fall, but who would rise to meet them. On the slopes of Hermon, the dawn broke the same as any other, but something was different. To human eyes, it was just a vast, stony hill shrouded in chill mist. Sheep grazed. Shepherds dozed. No storm on the horizon, no war drums in the ear. Just the hush that comes before a story changes the world forever. But peel back the veil, and you would see the true theater of that morning. A gathering storm of ancient power, lightning crawling across the unseen sky, invisible armies arrayed at the edge of mortal perception. The Watchers were not merely arriving. They were trespassing, crossing a boundary never meant to be broken. At the summit, Semyaza stood, his form radiant and terrifying, wrapped in light yet shadowed with ambition. Around him, 199 others, each one a being older than nations, stronger than mountains, each trembling not with fear, but with the electric thrill of rebellion. They spoke an oath, words so heavy they bent the air around them, binding themselves together in a pact that no force, save the will of the Most High, could break. As their voices rose, the ground shuddered, a warning ripple through the rock. The sky dimmed, not from rain or cloud, but as if the sun itself recoiled from what was about to unfold. From the human perspective, nothing seemed amiss. Families tended fields. Children played at the river's edge. But in the hidden world, alarm bells were ringing. Bells older than the pyramids, forged in the dawn when the first stars sang together. Nature twisted subtly. Birds fleeing in every direction. Predators pacing restlessly as if some ancient memory of fear had returned. The very air was charged, waiting. What drove the Watchers? The easy answer is lust. A forbidden desire for mortal women, a hunger for belonging, for sensation. But beneath that, a deeper motive simmered, the longing for knowledge, for the power to shape and remake, to be gods in a lower world. Semyaza's eyes shimmered with more than desire. They blazed with the yearning to bring secrets to earth that were never meant for mortal hands. Above, in the halls of heaven, the moment was not missed. Raphael was already on the move, a figure cut from the light of distant suns. Where he walked, wounds closed, torn realms knotted back together. But now his face was set, his brow shadowed by a sorrow only the eternal can know. Scrolls of healing, written in a language no man could speak, hung at his side. Each one a remedy, yet also a record, a witness to wounds old as time. And then Raguel, wrapped in the storm, thunder at his heels, eyes like shards of lightning. His armor shimmered with the stories of 1,000 judgments. Angels exiled, kings humbled, empires weighed and found wanting. In his right hand, the chains of judgment, links forged before the first rebellion, never to be broken by hand or spell. Raguel was not there for mercy. He was there for order, for the balancing of scales that had already begun to tip. The Watchers believed themselves unchallenged. Their arrival was meant to be secret, wrapped in darkness, hidden from the gaze of the throne. But here is the mystery they never saw. Raphael and Raguel were already stationed at the threshold, not to stop the fall, but to intervene at the precise moment fate required. They were not just witnesses. They were the agents of a plan older than the rebellion itself. With every forbidden lesson taught below, how to forge the metals of war, how to brew potions that twist the mind, how to read the stars until the stars answer back, a wound opened in the earth. The giants, the Nephilim, would come, offspring of heaven's pride and earth's innocence. Human history would reel, cities would fall, the stories of old would be written in blood and stone. Yet, in the shadow of evil, the guardians waited, not with swords drawn, but with their true weapons, healing and justice. And then the mountains trembled. The sky cracked open with a single silent flash, invisible to all but those who see in the spirit. The Watchers froze, the very air around them vibrating as if reality itself was being tested like an old rope under too much weight. In that moment, Raphael unrolled a scroll, and the words on it burned with blue fire, healing yet consuming. Raguel raised the chains, and the sound of their movement was a storm wrapped in silence. The Watcher's bravado faltered. Semyaza's voice, once shaking the mountains, seemed suddenly thin against the quiet strength of the archangels. It was not a physical confrontation. The true battle was for the soul of creation. The supreme command had been given, not to destroy, not yet, but to observe, to record, to ensure that the freedom of mortals would remain sacred, even as the Watchers sowed the seeds of ruin. Only Raphael and Raguel, guardians of healing and justice, could be entrusted with the kind of power that would soon be unleashed. As the first Nephilim drew breath in the shadows and the world's boundaries warped, the guardians did not flinch. They stood as beacons, reminders that no darkness enters the world without heaven's response. The story was not over. The abyss was waiting, and its doors would soon be forced open. The Watchers had descended, but what descended with them would ultimately change all realms, seen and unseen, forever. As the world reeled beneath the weight of the Watchers' rebellion, the air became heavy, like the pause before a tempest. The forbidden knowledge spread like wildfire, a black fire, crossing continents, seeping into the dreams of kings and slaves alike. Metallurgy begot weapons, weapons begot war, and war begot the rise of monstrous half-breeds, the Nephilim. These giants, born of angelic arrogance and human frailty, walked the earth with steps that made the mountains shudder. Humanity watched in awe and terror as wonders and horrors alike became commonplace. Diseases no healer could cure, spells that warped the mind, and cities built on blood and boasting. But while chaos spread across the lands, two figures moved in the shadows, unseen yet irresistible. Raphael, whose very name means God heals, could feel the agony of creation as if it were his own flesh. The rivers ached, the very trees mourned, and the animals, once tame, grew cold and restless, as if nature itself wanted to spit out this infection. Raphael's mission was not one of war, but of triage, closing the wounds, sealing the breaches, and holding back the spread of spiritual disease that threatened to drown the world. Yet everywhere he looked, the poison deepened. The music of creation, once harmonious, now rang discordant, like a harp with too many strings snapped. Children were being born with eyes too old, with voices too deep, echoes of a world that was never meant to exist. Raphael moved from village to village, comforting the innocent, whispering hope to those who still prayed among the ruins. His hands glowed with the promise of restoration, but even he knew that healing sometimes means cauterizing a wound, even if it scars. Meanwhile, Raguel's purpose was stark, uncompromising. Justice does not wait for permission. As cities groaned under the weight of corruption, Raguel appeared at the edge of dreams and nightmares, a figure of thunder in the mind's eye. When he spoke, the wicked felt their secrets bared, the scales of their deeds measured and displayed for all the spiritual world to see. He was the unyielding judge, the keeper of the cosmic contract. In his presence, even the watchers could not hide. Raguel alone held the chains of judgment, ancient and heavy, each link inscribed with the names of those who had tested heaven's patience. The moment came when Raphael and Raguel, acting on the supreme command, sought out Semyaza, Azazel, and the host of fallen watchers. It was not a confrontation of weapons, but of wills. The watchers and their monstrous offspring felt the tremor in the world's spiritual root system, a certainty that their freedom was nearing its end. Those who had once marched onto Hermon with fire and pride now stood in a circle, trembling before a justice that moved like a shadow behind the sun. Raphael spoke first, his voice a balm and a blade. He named each wound, each broken promise, each innocent life torn apart by the watcher's pride. Yet there was no gloating in his tone. He offered, even now, a chance for repentance, not to avoid consequence but to accept the mercy of a God who grieves even while he judges. Some wept, some raged, but the decision had already echoed through eternity. Then Raguel stepped forward, chains glimmering with silent fire. His words were thunder, rolling across the abyss that now yawned open beneath the feet of the condemned. You who have twisted the gifts of heaven and shattered the trust of earth, your sentence is sealed. You are not beyond God's sight, nor beyond his reach. The ground split, not with violence but with inevitability, as if the world itself was exhaling a poison it could no longer bear. One by one, the watchers were bound, not just with chains but with the authority of the highest, shackled at the level of their very essence. Azazel, the master of secrets, was cast into the blackest pit, the abyss beneath desert and mountain, Tartarus. Semyaza, broken by sorrow and defiance, was pinned between heaven and earth, suspended in a living silence, a warning written across the ages. As the abyss opened, it was not merely a hole in the ground, but a rent in the fabric of the worlds. Tartarus was hunger, cold, and memory, a place where even time could not pass, where the crimes of the fallen echoed as endless laments. The angels spoke no more, for their words had become law, engraved not on stone, but in the living energy of creation. The Nephilim howled in terror, feeling their ancestors' chains tighten around their own spirits. Human sorcerers, who had bargained for power, found themselves suddenly bereft, naked before the judgment they had believed was only myth. The silence that followed was deafening, a world holding its breath after a scream. Yet, even in judgment, a cosmic ripple spread, changing the structure of reality. The Watcher's binding became a warning. There are limits that cannot be crossed without consequence. The spiritual architecture of the world shifted. The abyss, once open, was now guarded by power no demon could breach. Raphael and Raguel, the guardians at the gates, became more than myth. They became the secret reassurance that justice walks unseen at the world's edge, and that mercy and healing are never far, even in the shadow of judgment. The aftermath lingered in the air, a silence so deep even birds did not sing. But beneath that silence, a new order was taking root, and the guardians stood watch, eyes open, hearts resolute, marking the spot where heaven's law met earth's rebellion, and history bent toward a new, mysterious future. The world after the binding of the Watchers was a landscape marked by scars and secrets. The giants, the Nephilim, still stalked the earth for a time, their reign a feverish nightmare that refused to break until the flood came to wash clean the blood-drenched ground. But the true battle was not over, for the wound left by the Watcher's descent was deeper than any mortal eye could see. It lingered in haunted valleys, in the half-remembered legends that mothers whispered to children, in the strange and sudden wisdom that crept into the hearts of men who gazed too long at the stars. Raphael and Raguel did not disappear when the Watchers fell. Their mission shifted. Now they stood sentinel at the threshold of the abyss, each vigil a living promise. Raphael, whose healing touch had closed wounds no surgeon could find, turned his grace to the rift itself, healing the space between worlds, whispering hope to prophets when the darkness seemed too thick to bear. To Noah, he brought dreams of a coming flood, messages written in symbols that only the pure in heart could understand. To Enoch, he unveiled the mysteries of judgment and mercy, teaching that even in a world gone mad, the Most High still remembered his own. Raguel, for his part, became the silent warden, the last line of defense between the pit and the world above. It was said that his presence alone kept the abyss shut, that his thunderous voice was enough to remind even the most stubborn of fallen spirits that justice had not forgotten them. When whispers of rebellion echoed from Tartarus, it was Raguel who answered, not with violence but with the authority of law older than the stars. He became legend, a name to be spoken in awe and dread by those who trafficked in forbidden things. Their work was not only in the past. The legacy of the Watcher's fall continued, ripples through the centuries, times when evil surged and the old powers seemed to stir. In every age, the guardians at the abyss have intervened, sometimes as visions in the night to those facing impossible odds, sometimes as bursts of inexplicable courage or flashes of cosmic insight in the hearts of those who stand against darkness. They became the hidden hands steadying the world's balance, ensuring that, even as darkness spread its tendrils, light was never without its champions. But the story doesn't end with the chains or the abyss. A promise remains, woven through prophecy and vision, that one day the abyss will open again, not as the Watchers hope, not as the world fears, but as part of a plan no darkness can undo. Until that day, the guardians wait at their post, their presence whispering to every soul, "You are not alone in the battle." Even when the world feels broken beyond repair, even when you stand on the edge of your own abyss, there are powers watching, healing, and upholding what is good. So, I ask you, which moment struck you the most? Was it the defiant courage of Raphael as he healed a dying world? Or the silent, unwavering justice of Raguel holding the abyss at bay? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know what questions and wonders this hidden history awakens in you. Don't forget to like this video if these revelations have opened your eyes to the unseen realm. Share this story with those who need to know the power of hope and the reality of guardianship. And most importantly, subscribe and join the revelation, because what comes next, you will not believe.